Hi boys and girls, it's Miss Fusco. So I just want to show you what it looks like on my screen after you take a test. So as you can see, it says Interactive Module Assessment, Module Test Form A, Integer Concepts. This is the one that you took last Friday. And then I can see down here, all students, so if I were to scroll down, your names pop up one by one, and it shows that our overall score was a 40%. So that's a very, very low score. But what's even more concerning is the time spent was an average of 7 minutes, which means some of you took less than 7 minutes and some of you took more than 7 minutes. But this test had 12 questions on it, which means that if we were in class, most of your tests have 12 questions on them. You would not take only 7 minutes. You would take a lot longer than that to really focus and make sure you were getting a good score. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to walk through Test B with you, which was the same questions that was on the quizzes, okay? Test B is very similar to Test A. So if you understand these 12 questions that we're about to go over, then you should be able to get a better score when I let you retake the test that you took on Friday, okay? So this says which point on the number line below represents the opposite of -3. So remember, the opposite of -3 is +3, okay? The opposite of 10 is -10. So the opposite of a number makes a positive number negative, or it makes a negative number positive. So the opposite of -3 would be +3. So it wants to know which point is at +3. Now here's 0, 1, 2, 3, J is at +3. Notice that they put -3 on here as an answer to try to trick you, because it doesn't want to know where -3 is. It wants to know where the opposite of -3 is, okay? Number 2, since last week, the change in value of Nikki's favorite comic book was -$24. Which statement best describes the meaning of this change in value? Now, if something's negative, it's decreasing or it's going down, okay? So the comic book is now worth $24. That's not what it's saying. It's talking about a decrease. The comic book is now worth -$24. That doesn't make sense either, that something would be cost a negative amount of money. The value of the comic book has decreased by $24, or the value of the comic book has increased by $24. Now the negative is saying that it decreased or it's going down. So the value went down $24, okay? So your answer would be that it decreased by $24. Now number 3. The table below records the elevations of 4 hikers who are exploring an island. Here are my 4 hikers and what their elevations are. So -36 feet, 105 feet, -124 feet, and 79 feet. Which hiker is at the highest elevation? So what that's really asking, which hiker is at the highest elevation, is who's at the highest elevation, or what is the greatest number here, okay? So if you think of this, I know that positive numbers are greater than negative numbers, right? So I can look, Bobby's at 105 feet and Devin's at 79 feet. Everybody else is in negative. So the highest number here is positive 105. So Bobby is at positive 105. He's at the highest elevation. If it asked who was at the lowest elevation, you would look for the smallest number here. Now that would be negative, and then I have -36 and -124. Now remember, the higher the value is of the number, the smaller it actually is. So -124 is the smallest number here, okay? But because it's asking for the highest elevation, that's Bobby, okay? Now, last night, the temperature on a thermometer was -4 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature this morning was colder than last night, which could represent the temperature on the thermometer this morning. So now, it's asking for numbers that are colder than last night, and last night was -4 degrees. So I need to choose all the numbers that are smaller than -4 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, if you think of a number line, and I have, let's draw out a number line, let's see. So if I have a number line here, and I have 0 degrees Fahrenheit right in the middle, right? And last night it was at -4, so that's on this side of the number line. And then it's saying what other numbers makes it colder. So one option is 0, but 0, as I go to the right on the number line, my numbers are getting greater. Let's see if I can. All right, so greater. Now, so 0 is greater than. I'm looking for numbers that are less than or colder. So 0 is actually warmer than -4. -2 is another option, but still that is greater than -4, so that's not going to work. I have -5, okay, because -5 is to the left of -4, it's smaller, it's colder. I have a +10, which is a lot greater, and I have a -12. So -12 is also a smaller number, which means it would be colder. So my two correct options here are -12 and -5 are both colder than -4. So -5 and -12. All right, what points on the number line have the same absolute value? So now, one second. Okay, so if you look at your number line here, it gives us point P, which is at -12. Point P is at -12. Q is at -4. R is at 0. S is at 12. And last, T is at 16. Okay, now it's saying which points on the number line below have the same absolute value. Well, remember, absolute value looks like this, and it makes my negative number positive because it's the distance from 0. So absolute value of -4 is +4. Absolute value of 0, still 0. Absolute value of +12 is still +12. It doesn't make it negative. Absolute value always gives me a positive answer. And -16, or +16, the absolute value is still 16. So it says which is the same. I have a 12 and I have a 12. So P and S are the same. So P and S is right here. Okay. Number 6. The change in balance of Kevin's saving account last month was -$700. So it decreased, it went down $700. The change in Stella's account was $500. So it went up, it increased $500. And the change in Peter's account was -$500. So his account went down $500. So it's saying the change in Stella's saving account was blank, the change in Kevin's. So Kevin's went down $700 and Stella's went up $500. So who had the greatest change? Well, because Kevin's changed by $700, Stella's account only changed by $500. So the change in Stella's account, $500, is less than the change in Kevin's saving account, which was $700. Now, whose account had the greatest change? What's the greatest change? It doesn't matter if it's increasing or decreasing, but 700, 500, or 500, what's the greatest change here? It's Kevin's. He went down $700, so that's the biggest change. So Kevin's account had the greatest change. Okay, number 7. Annie and Landon are scuba diving together. Annie is located at a depth of -11 meters. Landon is located at a depth of -19 meters. Enter an inequality in the box to compare the depths. So -11 meters and -19 meters. So if we get a new, so let's say we're swimming in the water, right? Here's the ocean. Perfect, it's blue already. Okay, and this is my 0. As I go down, I have -1, -2, right? So on and so forth. So Annie is at -11, scuba diving, and Landon is at -19. Okay, so think of this as like a number line. What number is smaller or further away from 0? And that's the -19. So write an inequality to compare Annie. So Annie is at -11. That number is greater than, right? It eats the bigger number, greater than -19. That would just be my answer. So an inequality wants a less than or greater than sentence. Okay? The height of a flower measures 7 inches. Plot the height of the flower. Okay, so 7 inches. So 7 is right between 6 and 8. So I'm going to put that right there. And its opposite. So the opposite of 7 is -7. So I plotted 7, a +7, and the opposite of 7, which is -7. That's all it wanted me to do for number 8. Okay, number 9. The table below lists the temperatures of 4 locations on Mars. Drag the locations in the correct order from the warmest, so remember warmest is going to be the highest number on top, to the coldest, which is the lowest temperature. So if I look, my highest temperature here is going to be a positive number, which is 6. So that is B. Then after that I have a 0, which is D. And then I have 2 negative numbers. Okay? -8 is greater than -9, right? If we think of a number line. So let me just pull up a number line. Okay. So if you look at a number line, let's see. Okay. Here's 0, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. Okay, if I keep going, negative, the smaller the number, the greater it is. So -8 is actually the next greatest number, and -9 is the smallest. Okay, even though it's the biggest number, because it's negative, that makes it the smallest. So my order would be B is the greatest, then 0, then -8, then -9. Okay, use a number line to help you if you need it. Select the correct button in the table to show whether each inequality is true or false. So the absolute value of -7 is 7. So this is saying 7 is greater than 3. That is correct. Okay, let's look. Okay, so go back to drawing. Right now I have the absolute value of -7, and then I have that it's greater than the absolute value of 3. So now if you look, let's see if I can make this bigger. Okay, so the absolute value of -7 is just 7. And then the absolute value of 3 is 3. So is 7 greater than 3? Yes, that is true. Okay, let's look at the second one. I have the absolute value of -8, and I have not absolute value. I just have that it's less than -1. Well, the absolute value of -8 is 8, and then it says less than -1. Is a +8 less than a negative number? No, that is false. Okay, false. And then the last one says the absolute value of -4 is greater than the absolute value of -2. Okay, so the absolute value of -4 is 4, is greater than the absolute value of -2 is +2. So is 4 greater than 2? Yes, that is true. Okay? Number 11, 4 points are plotted on the number line below. Here they are. Enter the opposite of each point in the boxes. So A is -5. The opposite of that is +5. B is at -2. The opposite of -2 is a +2. C is 0. 0 is a tricky one. The opposite of 0 is still just 0. And D is at 3. The opposite of +3 is a -3. Those would be your answers for number 11. And last is number 12. Okay, it says 3 people get on an elevator in a large office building. Robert rides it -6 floors, so he's going down 6 floors. Jane rides it 4 floors, so she's going up 5 floors, sorry. And Terrell rides it -3 floors, so he's going down. Point 3 points a number line to represent each person's ride in the elevator. So Robert went -6, so -6. Jane rides it 5, and Terrell rides it -3. Now Ellen gets on the elevator and rides it 4 floors. Enter an inequality in the box to compare Ellen's ride to Terrell. So remember, Terrell is here, and Ellen rides it to 4. So Ellen's 4 is greater than Terrell's -3, because -3 is smaller than 4. Okay? Then that would be the end of the test. So I'm going to have you watch this video and then retake the test that you took on Friday, hoping that we can bring these scores up a decent amount. I just took about 20 minutes on this test, which means that you should take around the same time. Okay? If you have any questions, just comment on Google Classroom. But these test scores, the next time you take it, today, are going to count and going to the gradebook. So make sure you watch the video, you learn what I just talked about, and then you'll be able to get a better score when you take Test A again. Okay? Thanks, boys.